Alright, so here's another meal that I take. This is a favorite. Now, I stole this one from a fella called Matty the Goose. So he's got a YouTube channel. It's really quite interesting. He's got a few recipes on there. He's got dehydrating tips. He's got a number of trips. He travels in Algonquin Park, primarily from what I've seen anyway, on his YouTube channel. So it's a great resource if you're doing some backpacking, especially if you're doing paddling like I am. So I'm planning food for an 8-day trip when I go. I eat big, I love to eat, and I like to eat good food, and the food that I take usually turns out fantastic. It's 20 years of practice and stuff. I dehydrate everything myself. Pretty much I'll let you know if I don't, and I'll let you know if I steal a recipe or a meal like this one, which is shepherd's pie. Again, that I stole from Matty the Goose. That's the name of the YouTube channel. I can't remember the fellow's name. So it will fill this pot, which I think is a 3-cup pot. I think maybe it's 2-cup. I should measure this. I really should, so I know. But anyway, it's my medium-sized pot. We'll fill it to the top, or about half to 2/3 of my big pot, which is usually what I eat out of. Most meals that I have on here are going to take 3 pots to make it. Shepherd's pie is no exception. So I use my frying pan as well, and you'll see that as I film it on the trail, hopefully, and we'll all turn out. So when you start out with shepherd's pie, I use potato flakes as my base. So it's the potato layer, and I pack everything individually in Ziploc bags, and I put them all in like a main bag. It's very important to protect them from getting any moisture as I'm out canoeing. You could be out hiking in the rain or whatever. This meal is not that hard to prepare. It's very filling, and it's been my favorite meal of my 8-day trips. I'm nearing 30 of them now. It's been my favorite meal a number of times on the trip. Turned out the best. Thank you, Matty the Goose. If you ever watch this, it's a great recipe. So start with your potato flakes, and as you can see, I don't measure a whole lot. So I've got roughly about 1/3 of a bag there. Again, I'm trying to fill this pot. That's what I want to feed me for my trip, for my supper. So I got potato flakes in here. Then you need to dehydrate some ground beef. Always use lean or extra lean is even better. Break it up good. Matty actually has a great video on doing ground beef. He calls it gravel, and he shows how he breaks it all up and he rinses it off. And again, a great resource especially if you're new to dehydrating. So this is some ground beef for the shepherd's pie, so it goes in there as well. Corn for the shepherd's pie as well. Now, some people like peas and all that stuff. I just like the 3 ingredients in shepherd's pie. But you can put frozen vegetables in there, peas and beans and whatever you like. But I just like corn in my shepherd's pie because my wife teases me all the time. I like things very specific and particular, and I like shepherd's pie to have specific ingredients, and this is one of them. So dehydrated corn, I dehydrate that from frozen. I just dump it right on my dehydrator tray, and away we go. And then you need gravy. So some shepherd's pie, like how we make it at home, has like a yummy sauce. It's all baked in the oven. You can also make shepherd's pie or cottage pie, depending on if you're a real chef or not. Shepherd's pie has lamb, of course. So I use powdered gravy mix. So there's roughly 3 tablespoons of gravy in there. Now I can tell you assuredly, never once after a very good day of paddling and whatever have I come to my shepherd's pie meal and thought, oh, I've got too much gravy. So I don't think you can get too much gravy. So this is about 3 tablespoons I have in there. It's just powdered gravy. I pick it up at the bulk barn. Again, I'm in Canada, and the bulk barn is a great resource to be able to find some things. You can get different packaged gravies and all kinds. You can get packages of instant potatoes with gravy in them. You can do this a lot cheaper than a lot of people do with all those prepackaged meals. And in my opinion, the gravy does not turn out without some fat, so I take 2 butter pats when I make gravy, and these are ADL from Prince Edward Island, where I live. ADL butter pats, so I take real butter, and I put them in there, and the whole bag fits in, the whole meal rather fits in one bag, and there we go, backpacking shepherd's pie. We'll see you on the trail. I'll show you how I make it, and it's usually fantastic. I don't think I've had a bum time that I've made it yet, and I take it every year. It's one of the meals every trip I do. Shepherd's pie is one of my 7 suppers that I take for each trip. So it's great. All right, on the menu for tonight is shepherd's pie. So lots of meals get rotated in and out. There's my bag of stuff that I've carried out. Lots of meals get rotated in and out of the menu, but shepherd's pie comes every single trip since the first time it came. It's probably the most consistent meal that I make out here. thank you, Maddie the Goose, again, for your... He's got a video on making this, too, so it's probably way better than mine's going to be, but... Anyway, check out Maddie the Goose. It's his recipe, and it's a great meal, and it's a staple of every trip that I go on. It's not really that difficult. The trickiest part about it is getting the gravy made. Any sauces are always a bit tricky, so it's rehydration time, so I'll take my ground beef and my corn. That's a lot of corn. And the pine needles. Don't forget to put the pine needles in, because it won't taste right if it's not full of pine needles. Dead pine needles, too. Don't put the green ones in, dead ones. So you put your stuff at the bottom there, and put some filtered water in, or boiled water, depending on what you're doing, but it should be treated water. You shouldn't dump it out of the lake or river or whatever. So an ample amount to cover, and time is your friend with rehydrating. The longer you can let it go, the better. So it's going to get to sit for 2 or 3 good hours here. We're at camp early this afternoon and just going to take it easy. So there we go. We're just going to cover that up, let her set, and we'll be back at mealtime. Alright, we're back at mealtime. Our hamburger and corn look magnificent. So we're going to bring those to a boil. Alright, so that's come to a boil. I'm going to save that for making the gravy, I think. Set that aside. Now I'm going to boil some water. Oh, we got a dead leaf in there. Yummy. Yummy. So, I'm going to boil some water to make my potatoes. I never seem to have enough water to make the potatoes. They're dry and I'm boiling more. So I'm going to try to boil enough to make the potatoes here. Okay, our water has come to a boil. Our resident woodpecker is beating his head off a tree over my right shoulder there. The water's come to a boil, or coming to a boil. I'm just going to let that just boil a little bit more. It's also kind of a windy day today as well, so I'm battling wind and cold. My stove is not pressurizing the fuel very well because it's not a cold temperature stove, and the wind is blowing the flame around. So because I use filtered water for that, I'm not going to worry that it's not rolling. Okay. So I put my potato flakes in my frying pan. I'm going to add water, which thankfully has a dead leaf in it. Really add to the flavor and oh, I got it in the potatoes. Perfect. I want to make these kind of wet. Just kind of mix them up. Now I'm going to double use this frying pan as well to make my gravy in. So it's going to have potato residue in it, and I don't have any too much water in that, do I? I just kind of mix them in, being careful not to put too much water in, because you can't take the water out. You can always add a little more, but you can't take the water out. That's about what I want there. Alright. So there's my potatoes right there. Hopefully you can see that. Potatoes. Now, I got a little bit of water left. I put that in with my meat and my corn. Bring that to a boil again to get it nice and hot. Crank that up. Put a cover over my potatoes so that they stay relatively warm. My backpack thermometer says it's about 8 degrees. So, a little on the chilly side. Okay, that's boiling now. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to put it in here, because that's the base of my shepherd's pie. Then I'm going to take my lid and drain the water off. So I need that water. Oh, it smells good. So I'll drain the water off. There's my ground beef and corn. Turn my burner off. Next is going to be the potatoes, so I've got my potatoes. I'll scoop them out of my frying pan into the top. So what I like to do is make kind of a layer. A couple reasons why. This seals in the heat. The potatoes help keep the heat of the meat in while I'm doing the rest of my meal, which is the gravy. It also gives me a spot to put the gravy on top. The gravy will cover all this, and then every bite I have, the gravy will run down in the rest of the stuff. So there's that. Put the cover on it to keep her hot. Next is the finicky part. So the gravy needs some playing to get it to turn out right, so it's not all lumpy. So you have to stir a lot, and you need to use low heat. So I use 2 butter pats for my gravy, which I've said previously. Butter pats. So just like everything with butter, the first thing I usually do is melt that butter. So I want low heat on the stove. I'm going to add a little bit of my yummy water that I've used for my corn and meat, because I want it to all kind of taste the same. Put my powdered gravy mix in. And what will happen with the gravy is it will naturally thicken as it gets hot. So you have to be careful, because your camp stove has a lot of power, more than likely, and it's going to create hot spots. And when it creates those hot spots, it will kind of cook the flour, and it'll make it all lumpy and clumpy, which is not what we want. We want it liquidy. We want it thick like gravy. You see it's already clumping up, so it doesn't take very long to do that. So I use the back of my spoon and I kind of crush it down. Another thing you'll see me do is I take it off the heat regularly. I'll bring it up in the air to reduce the heat. So that paste that I'm getting on the bottom, that's my gravy thickening and flavor that I want to maintain. So right now I've got kind of a thick gravy going on. Need more water for that. Tell by the look of it. Oh, it smells good. Like I said, this is a every trip meal. It comes every trip. I don't like the gravy too thin, but I don't like it too thick either. I got just a hair on the thicker side there. You see it kind of coming around. Now you can make it quick. My son Cameron, when he makes it, he just slam bam, get her done. And it's more clumps and looks almost like dumplings in stew. But I like to try to get it as thin as I can. I'm actually going to put a little extra water in it. I'm going to condense it down to try to get it a little bit smoother. That's ice cold water. Not ice cold, but it's pretty much fridge cold today. So cold the last 2 nights the water froze in the bottles. It was a frosty morning. I have a thermometer on my backpack, and it said it was about -2 this morning when I got up around 6:30 to get into my tent and stretch. Okay, that's pretty decent there. Just going to stop stirring for a second. So as soon as you stop stirring, if you can see that or not, but she'll start boiling almost right away because it's thick, and your camp stove is powerful. A lot more powerful than your burner at home. So when it boils like that, it just condenses and thickens a bit. That's kind of what I want. It's a nice dark beef gravy like that. Yummy, yummy. Alright, we're done with that. Shepherd's pie nears its zenith, its completion.
So the next step is to pour the delicious gravy. Now, if you remember during the first part of the video, I said never once did I ever get out in the woods and think, oh, I had too much gravy. I wish I hadn't brought so much gravy. You can never have too much gravy. Bring the gravy. So this is roughly 2 tablespoons from memory of powdered gravy. I made it relatively thick, and I like to scrape every last little bit. I'd lick it. If I wasn't recording this, I'd be licking it right now. Licking it out. And there we go. So here's the shepherd's pie. Gravy all over the top. You drive your spoon down through to take a bite. The gravy all runs in around. Oh, yummy. There we go. We got beef, corn, and potatoes. Let's take, this is going to be good. Here, you can watch me burn my mouth. Can you see me? Camera probably fall over. Here we go. Oh, it's going to be good. Excellent, as always.
I got an upside down one. Beef on top.
Upside down. You can make it anyway.
Yeah.
Good stuff.